Welcome to Modern Aikidoist Podcast. My sincere thanks to listeners and those who've liked, subscribed, and commented. Your interest is noticed and deeply appreciated. Let me also say that I'm really enjoying putting together these podcasts, primarily because of the feedback I'm getting from you, the listeners. The comments and suggestions are great, so keep them coming. People who follow my writings and discussions on my Facebook forum, Aikido the Martial Side, may think I went off my rocker in choosing the topic of Aikido and love. I assure you that I have not lost my mind, well, any more than usual, but I will say that there's validity to the idea that a martial art is not merely a study of how to cause the most harm possible to other people. There are many quotes by O-sensei about the importance of love, too many to dig through and find, much less list here. It would be accurate to say that love and caring for others was a core value of his. He also felt it was so important that it should be a core value of humanity in general, and I very much believe he's correct. Imagine the world where there was less hate, intolerance, and vitriol. We don't even have to envision a world with none whatsoever, just significantly less of it. Imagine that for a second. Love is a splendid ideal. Failing to have consideration for others causes stress and turmoil in relationships, not only on a personal level, but on a society level. This is probably so obvious that I don't even need to mention it. A big problem is defining exactly what love is, and even more importantly, how best to build and maintain it. We can start with the most obvious. Expressing love towards someone means being kind to them instead of being dismissive or mean to them. This means being polite towards them and treating them with respect. The concept of respect is a core principle in not only all martial arts, but in almost all human relations. I think it would be accurate to say that love cannot exist without respect. Love is not just being kind to someone, it also includes trying to protect them and aid them in their own self-interest. This can lead to some very uncomfortable situations, and ones which will certainly feel that you are no longer being polite. Imagine you find your very best and valued friend has a severe drinking problem, and you can see it having a negative impact on their health and their family. Does the love that you have for them include the duty of trying to help them shake their bad habit, or do you resign merely to be pleasant to them without ever mentioning it? This is just me, but I find ignoring their self-destructive behavior to be a sign of apathy, not of loving support. I value friends and loved ones who are willing to endure some discomfort to help me, and those who don't as being fair-weather friends who aren't willing to endure some discomfort. The love is behind their motive in wanting to see the best for me, and that's something money can't buy. So how does this relate to martial arts and Aikido? The answer is that love is not a result, but it is a process, and these are two very different things. An example of the difference between a result and a process. A person with a severe abdominal pain goes to a doctor. The doctor examines them and determines they have appendicitis, and their appendix needs to be removed or they will die. The ultimate goal of the doctor is the health and comfort of the patient. However, the surgery required to remove the appendix will be anything but healthy or comfortable. It's a highly invasive and painful process. A surgeon uses his knowledge and skills to make the surgery as painless as he can, but the priority is on eliminating the threat to the patient's health. Some discomfort and pain will go along with the process. This is very similar to someone who must deal with violence. The martial artist is like a doctor. You don't want to cause more pain or suffering than necessary, but the goal of removing the threat to safety must be achieved. That may require discomfort, pain, or even injury to accomplish. You hope that it doesn't, but you cannot mistake the goal for the process and become so intent on causing no pain that you fail in your goal of establishing peace and safety. The doctor shows utmost care for the patient, but must be willing to do what needs to be done to save him. The doctor is never sadistic or enjoys causing pain, but cannot hesitate out of fear of the discomfort the patient will experience. I believe much of what O-sensei wrote about the way of the warrior is reflected in this analogy. Granted, his words are pretty hard to understand due to not only the translation issues, but the fact that he spoke and wrote in a way that's difficult to decipher. Even those fluent in Japanese have great difficulty understanding him. It's disappointing that there seem to be diametrically opposed camps within the Aikido world which are at odds about the fundamental purpose and nature of Aikido. Those being the people who firmly believe that Aikido is strictly pacifist in nature and no harm or discomfort should ever come to your attacker, and others who believe that Aikido is a martial art and in actual violence, pain and injury are likely. There seems to be a strong implication by the pacifist types that since causing pain shows a lack of humanity, then anyone who does not actively avoid causing discomfort or pain are not enlightened human beings. Their condemnation is sometimes palpable, but I don't think this attitude addresses the reality of dealing with violence. Any human being who is not a psychopath wants to cause as little harm as possible. They just want to be safe. The goal of martial arts is not to indulge in violence or initiate it unnecessarily, but to end it as quickly and painlessly as possible for everyone involved. To me, that is the true expression of love, saving people from pain. It might get ugly and there will very likely be pain involved, just like the patient with appendicitis, but the end goal is peace. I'm not saying that the ends justify the means because I don't believe that. Ending violence without injury, pain, or even discomfort is an ivory tower ideal. It would be great if we could get as close to that goal as possible, but sometimes it is not possible despite our best efforts. I wanted to make this podcast because it's important not to let O-sensei's quotes about love be used as a tool to lure people away from Aikido being practiced as a martial art. If you take away the principles and methods which are direct and effective because they might hurt an attacker, you remove a great deal of Aikido's effectiveness. Imagine if people clamored to surgeons to give up on scalpels and the practice of cutting into people because it caused them pain. The surgeon needs his scalpel and must be skilled in its use for when the time comes that it's needed. We must define what love is and what our duty to it is. What is the ultimate goal of our martial art training? The answer to me lies in another O-sensei quote. The way of the warrior is to establish harmony. There is some dispute over the translation of original Japanese word meaning harmony. Many people tend to believe this is synonymous with peace or tranquility, but since I'm not an expert Japanese linguist, I'm not going to get into the meaning. I will say that establishing harmony can take some energy and sometimes involve discomfort. Just like the surgeon, the goal is different from the process to achieve it. This doesn't give license to be sadistic or cause more pain or trauma than necessary. We practice our art to be good enough to avoid having to cause great harm in order to achieve safety. That is love. What are other topics you're interested in hearing covered in this podcast? Please share your ideas in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube. You can also go to the Facebook group Aikido the Martial Side and post a comment there. Your input and engagement helps podcasts like these stay around. Please support it by liking, subscribing, and sharing. Enjoy your training.